welcome back to the Mayhem Summer Slam, where questionable teams bring questionable brews. For this week, we're playing out our Highlander rounds right before we kick it into high gear with our last CDH round. With that being said, let's check out the pod today. First, we have Pilch on Code Cracking Crustaceans, a Gruul Monsters list that seeks to drop threat after threat each turn and win by overwhelming its opponent. And Cole on Grixis White, a Jeskai Black deck that seeks to stop everything and anything its opponent does, land powerful threats, and win with a late game push. And now, with each pilot on their respective corner of the screen, let us begin.
Pilch plays a Verdant Catacombs and cracks it, paying a life, fetching up a Taiga, plays a Soul Ring, and passes. Cole draws, plays a Plateau and Prismatic Ending, where X equals 0, exiling Soul Ring. Cole passes. Pilch draws, plays a Bloodstained Mire, and passes. Cole draws, plays a Verdant Catacombs, Dragon's Rage Channeler, and at the end of turn, Pilch cracks his Mire, paying a life. In response, Cole cracks his Catacombs, paying a life, fetching up an Underground Sea. Pilch fetches up a Stomping Ground tapped, and the turn moves to Pilch. Pilch draws, plays a City of Traders, and Minx Kimbu, Timeless Heroes. In response, Cole plays Brainstorm, surveilling through Channeler, drawing 3 and putting 2 back on top. Then, Minx resolves, creating Boo when it enters. Pilch upticks Minx, putting 3 +1/+1 counters on Boo, and moves to combat, attacking with Boo. Cole takes the hit, and Pilch passes. Cole draws, plays a Bloodstained Mire, and moves to combat, attacking Minx with Channeler. Minx takes the hit, and Cole passes. Pilch floats mana and plays a Forest, sacrificing City of Traders. He dashes in Deathgreeter's Champion, backing up Boo, giving it a +1/+1 counter and Double Strike. He upticks Minx, putting 3 +1/+1 counters on Boo, and moves to combat, attacking Cole with Boo and Champion. Before damage, Cole plays Shieldred's Edict, making Pilch sacrifice Boo, takes the rest, and in his second main phase, Pilch plays Chain Lightning, destroying Channeler. At the end of turn, Deathgreeter's Champion returns to Pilch's hand, and the turn moves to Cole. Cole draws and cracks Mire, paying a life, fetching up a Volcanic Island, and plays True Name Nemesis, choosing Pilch when it enters. He plays a Fiery Islet and passes. At the beginning of his upkeep, Pilch creates Boo through Minx. He draws, plays a Forest, and upticks Minx, giving 3 +1/+1 counters to Boo. He plays Thrawn the Last Troll and passes. Cole draws, plays a Hollowed Fountain tapped, and Kaido the Dancing Shadow, uptaking him, making Boo unable to attack or block until his next turn. Cole passes. Pilch draws and plays Shivan Devastator, where X equals 3, and moves to combat, taking Cole with Devastator. Cole takes the hit, and in his second main phase, Pilch downticks Minx, sacrificing Boo, dealing 4 damage to Cole and drawing 4 cards. He follows it up with a Boseiju, who endures, Skull Clamp, and passes. Cole draws and upticks Kaido, making Shivan Devastator unable to attack or block until his next turn, and moves to combat, taking Minx with True Name. Minx is destroyed, and Kaido triggers, bouncing True Name back to his hand. In his second main phase, Cole zeroes Kaido, drawing a card, plays a Tundra, True Name Nemesis, choosing Pilch when it enters, and passes. Pilch draws, plays Thrun, Breaker of Silence, and passes. Cole draws and upticks Kaido, making Shivan Devastator unable to attack or block. He follows it up with Comet, Stellar Pup, zeroing him, rolling a d6.
Okay. 2. I make 2 1/1 swirls, and we can go to game 2.
Okay.
Cole sees the writing on the wall, and Pilch wins the game. Cole plays an island and passes. Pilch draws, plays a mountain, Mox Emerald, and dashes Ragavan Nimble Pilfer. He moves to combat, attacking Cole with Ragavan. Cole takes the hit, exiling the top card of his library. Pilch creates a treasure token, Ragavan returns to his hand, and passes. Cole draws, plays Sulphur Falls, and passes. Pilch draws, plays a Sunbaked Canyon, and Territorial Hellkite.
So when it beginning of combat, I'd like to choose an opponent at random that it didn't attack during my last combat. That happens to be you. I'll attack you for 6.
I'm at 12.
I'll pass the turn.
Cole draws, plays a Rogren Triumph tapped, and passes. Pilch draws and plays Yavimaya Iconoclast, kicked, giving it +1/+1 in haste until end of turn. He moves to combat, attacking Cole with Iconoclast and Hellkite. Before damage, Cole plays Lightning Bolt, destroying Iconoclast.
And that thing cannot attack. Well, wait, how did that thing attack me this turn?
If I can't... Oh, it does. This is tapped. Yes.
I should be at 12.
Yeah, you're at 12. I'm sorry.
After some rules clarification, Pilch passes. Cole draws, plays Polluted Delta, and cracks it, paying a life, fetching up an Underground Sea. He plays Seasoned Dungeoneer, taking the initiative, venturing into Undercity, fetching up a mountain into his hand. Cole passes. Pilch draws, plays Soul Ring, and Shivan Devastator, where X equals 3. He moves to combat, taking Cole with Hellkite and Devastator. Cole takes the hit, and Pilch takes the initiative, venturing into Undercity, fetching up and playing a mountain. He plays Ragavan Nimble Pilferer and passes. Cole draws, plays a mountain, and Fury, destroying Ragavan and Devastator when it enters. He moves to combat, taking Pilch with Seasoned Dungeoneer, getting protection from creatures and exploring. Pilch takes the hit, Cole takes the initiative, venturing into Undercity, putting 2 +1/+1 counters on Fury, and passes.
I will cast a Fork Bolt targeting you.
Motherfucker.
We just top decked it. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, I was just like,
Because otherwise, if I had to top deck something, otherwise I had Squee that could put you to 1.
Yeah. No, that doesn't do it though, because like I would.
No, I know it puts you to 1 because you have 1 blocker.
That was such a fucking stupid top deck. I hate my life.
I almost flipped the top card, but I'm like, I'll draw it normally because I think I'm dead here. And then it was because I play like Fork Bolt, Chain Lightning, and not very many to face. There's like a few draws that do damage to you in your upkeep that I was hoping for.
Yeah, no, and like the turn 2 Shiv and Devastator just wasn't. I just couldn't take care of it. Like
it's turn 2 6/6 is pretty good
on a mold of 5.
Cole sees the writing on the wall, and Pilch wins the match.
First, we have Josh on Omnihold, a combo deck that seeks to assemble a Flash Hulk line, value reanimation lines, or other compact combos from the graveyard to quickly go for a win. And Tanner on Time Vault +3, an Orzhov artifact deck that seeks to use Searchers and Recursion to quickly assemble an artifact-based combo. And now, with each pilot on their respective corner of the screen, let us begin.
Tanner plays a Caves of Koilos and Expedition map and passes. Josh draws, plays a Botanical Sanctum and Consider, surveilling 1 and drawing, plays a Lotus Petal and passes. Tanner draws, plays a Swamp and passes. Josh draws, plays a Reflecting Pool, Ice Fang Coatl, drawing a card, and at the end of turn, Tanner cracks map, fetching up Ancient Tomb to his hand. The turn moves to Tanner. Tanner draws, plays Ancient Tomb and Ravenloft Adventure, taking the initiative, venturing into Undercity, fetching up a Plains into his hand. Tanner passes. Josh draws and moves to combat, taking Tanner with Coatl. Tanner takes the hit, Josh takes the initiative, venturing into Undercity, fetching up and playing a Swamp. Josh passes. Tanner draws and plays Urza Saga, moving to Chapter 1 when it enters. He moves to combat, taking Josh with Adventurer. For damage, Josh plays Assassin's Trophy, destroying Ravenloft Adventurer, with Tanner fetching up a Swamp. In his second main phase, Tanner plays a Dross Skullbomb and cracks it, returning Ravenloft Adventurer to his hand and drawing. He plays a Chromatic Star and passes. At his upkeep, Tanner cracks Star, drawing a card and adding a white, and plays Swords to Plowshares, exiling Coatl and gaining Josh 1 life. Still at upkeep, Josh ventures into Undercity, scrying 2. He draws, plays a Plains, and Snapcaster Mage, flashing back Consider, surveilling 1, and drawing. He follows it up with Thoughtseize, looking at Tanner's hand, discarding Ravenloft Adventure, and losing 2 life. Josh passes. Tanner draws and Urza Saga moves to Chapter 2. He plays a Goldmire Bridge tapped, Oswald Fiddlebender, Shadow Spear, and passes. At the beginning of his upkeep, Josh ventures into Undercity, goading Oswald. He plays a Tropical Island and Prismatic Ending, where X equals 1, exiling Oswald, and at the end of turn, Tanner activates Saga, creating a Karnstruct. The turn moves to Tanner. Tanner draws and Urza Saga moves to Chapter 3. In response, Tanner activates Saga, creating a Karnstruct. Then, Tanner fetches up a Soul Guide Lantern, exiling Hoarding Broodlord from Josh's graveyard when it enters, and Saga sacrifices. He plays a Plains, Ratchet Field Medic, equips Shadow Spear to a Karnstruct, and moves to combat, tanking Josh with the Karnstruct. Before blocks, Josh channels Boseiju, who endures, destroying the Karnstruct, with Tanner fetching up a Scrubland onto the battlefield. In his second main phase, Tanner plays an Implement of Improvement and passes. Josh draws and ventures into Undercity, drawing a card. He draws and passes. Tanner draws and sacrifices Implement of Improvement, gaining 3 life, drawing a card, converting Ratchet into Ratchet Rescue Racer, returning Implement of Improvement to the battlefield tapped. He follows it up with Caracas and Grindstone. In response, Josh hardcasts Mental Misstep, countering Grindstone. He equips his Karnstruct with Shadow Spear and moves to combat, tanking Josh with the Karnstruct. Josh takes the hit and Tanner takes the initiative, venturing into Undercity and passes. Josh draws, plays a Forest, and at the end of turn, Tanner sacrifices Implement of Improvement, gaining 3 life, drawing a card, converting Ratchet, and the turn moves to Tanner. At the beginning of his upkeep, Tanner ventures into Undercity, putting 2 +1/+1 counters on Ratchet. He moves to combat, attacking Josh with Ratchet and the Karnstruct. Josh takes a hit, and Tanner converts Ratchet, returning Grindstone to the battlefield tap. In his second main phase, Tanner plays Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, Wishclaw Talisman, and passes. Josh draws and moves to combat, attacking Tanner with Snapcaster Mage. Tanner takes the hit and Josh takes the initiative, venturing into Undercity, revealing the top 10, putting Archon of Cruelty onto the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters in Hexproof, and the rest to the bottom. Tanner discards a card, sacrifices his Construct, and loses 3 life, and Josh draws a card and gains 3, all off of Archon. Josh follows that up with the One Ring, gaining protection from everything when it enters, and activates the ring, putting a burden counter on it and drawing. After a monster of a turn, Josh passes. Tanner draws and activates Wishclaw Talisman, removing a wish counter. In response, Josh plays Silence, locking Tanner out of spells for the turn. Tanner fetches up a card into his hand and passes. At the beginning of his upkeep, Josh loses life from the ring and ventures into Undercity, fetching up an island into his hand. He draws and activates the ring, putting a burning counter on it and drawing 2, plays the Drowned Catacombs and moves to combat, tanking Tanner with Archon, with Tanner discarding a card and losing 3 life, and Josh drawing and gaining 3 life. Tanner takes the hit, and in his second main phase, Josh hardcasts Atraxa, Grand Unifier. In response, Tanner flashes in Opposition Agent. Then, Atraxa resolves and Josh reveals the top 10, putting Bayou, Careful Study, Protean Hulk, Mystical Tutor, and Baleful Strix into his hand, the rest of the bottom. At the end of turn, Tanner activates Caracas, bouncing Atraxa. Josh moves to discard, and at the end of turn, Tanner cracks Soul Guide Lantern, exiling Josh's graveyard, converting Ratchet. The turn moves to Tanner. Tanner draws, equips Shadow Spear to Agent, and moves to combat, taking Josh with Ratchet and Agent. Josh chumps Agent with Snapcaster, but with Ratchet's ability to bring back Painter's Servant going unanswered and Grindstone combo incoming, Josh sees the writing on the wall, and Tanner wins the game. Josh plays a Flooded Strand and passes. Tanner draws, plays a Concealed Courtyard, and Duress. In response, Josh cracks his Flooded Strand, paying a life, fetching up a Scrubland. He plays Enlightened Tutor, fetching up a Mox Diamond to the top of his library. Then, Duress resolves with Tanner looking at Josh's hand, discarding Wishclaw Talisman, and passing. Josh draws, plays Mox Diamond, discarding a land when it enters, a Misty Rainforest, and Brainstorm, drawing 3 and putting 2 back on top. Josh passes. Tanner draws, plays a Caves of Quellos, Wishclaw Talisman, entering with 3 wish counters, and at the end of turn, Josh cracks Rainforest, paying a life, fetching up a Zagoth Triumph tap. The turn moves to Josh. Josh draws and plays Solve the Equation, fetching up Entomb into his hand, and passes. Tanner draws, plays and immediately cracks Wasteland, destroying Zagoth Triumph. Tanner passes. Josh draws, plays a Boseiju Who Endures, and Entomb, fetching up Grizzlebrand into his graveyard and follows it up with Animate Dead, returning Grizzlebrand to the battlefield and activates it, paying 7 life and drawing 7 cards. Josh passes. Tanner draws, plays a Scrubland, and activates Talisman, removing a wish counter, fetching up a card into his hand and giving Josh control of Talisman. He follows it up with Balance. In response, Josh pays a life and exiles a blue card from his hand to play Force of Will, countering Balance. Tanner passes. Josh draws and moves to combat, tagging Tanner with Grizzlebrand. Tanner takes the hit, and in his second main phase, Josh activates Grizzlebrand, paying 7 life and drawing 7 cards, plays an island, and activates Talisman, removing a wish counter, fetching up a card into his hand and giving Tanner Talisman. He follows it up with Flash. With Flash Hulk inbound, Tanner sees the writing on the wall, and Josh wins the game. Tanner plays a Swamp, Blood Fountain, creating a blood token when it enters, Mox Opal, and passes. Josh draws, plays a Tropical Island, Lotus Petal, and passes. Tanner draws, plays a Scrubland, Dothy Voidwalker, and passes. Josh draws, stares at Dothy Voidwalker, and passes. Tanner draws and moves to combat, tagging Josh with Voidwalker. Josh takes the hit, and in his second main phase, Tanner plays a Time Vault tapped and passes. Josh draws, sighs, and passes. Tanner draws, plays a Caracas, and moves to combat, tagging Josh with Voidwalker. Josh takes the hit, and in his second main phase, Tanner plays Voltaic Servant. It resolves, and with Tanner able to untap and activate Time Vault at the end of each of his turns through Servant, Josh sees the writing on the wall, and Tanner wins the match.
Alright, so after the Canadian Highlander rounds, teams are getting neck and neck, with Ink Bothenheimer and Maripool Marauders tied at first at 220 points. Ballistic Studies and Borkashow Masters are still in the game, bringing up the rear at 180 and 150 points. Who's gonna push ahead? Who's gonna fall to the bottom? Who's going to sneak up and take home the prize? Find out next week by continuing to tune in to the Mayhem Summer Slam.